Hey everyone, you're watching The Business of Law, the only web TV show focusing on the challenges and the opportunities facing the legal profession. I'm Lee Pacchia. We're taking a look at the recruiting space today. I'm happy to say we have Grushkin joining us. He is a partner at Milbank Tweed based here in New York. And in addition to running his practice, he is the senior partner in charge of hiring for the New York office. Welcome back. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Lee.
So last time we spoke, different building, different set, you outlined some of the logistical challenges facing the recruiting process, at least as it relates to big law firms. Specifically, you said the big schools had moved their on-campus recruiting up on the calendar earlier and earlier, and that in turn is forcing the firms into a position where they're having to turn around and give offers on a narrower and narrower time frame, almost before they're really comfortable getting the full picture of the economic realities facing the incoming class. That chat was over a year ago. Where does the situation stand today? Is it getting better? Is it getting worse in your view? How do you see things?
I see it getting better because the law firms have accepted and adapted to this tremendously compressed time frame in which recruiting occurs. For all intents and purposes, during the second and third week of August, we are on campus at 30 different law schools over a 10-12 day period. Then we immediately begin inviting the law students back. And effectively, our recruiting is pretty much done by a week or two after Labor Day. Mm-hmm. So we've accepted it. It's not a perfect system, but it's a system that we have, and we've gotten better at adapting to it. So, we warn the partners, we warn the senior associates in advance, don't plan a lot of vacation time during what historically is vacation season.
Right.
We establish teams that are responsible for each school, for on-campus recruiting, for hospitality suites, for follow-up dinners. We try to identify the best attorneys to interview the students when they come back on site, and we have multiple, 3 or 4 marathon evening sessions where from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock, we basically run in parallel 20, 25, 30 interviews, and then everybody meets up for cocktails at the end. It's kind of interesting to see the different applicants who are not in a competitive environment normally where you put them together with other applicants. The dynamics are quite interesting.
Trial by fire. Yeah. You said before also that you would like to see the recruiting period move from that time in August maybe to something like January in the student's second year. Has that idea gotten any traction in your view? Why or why not?
It has a lot of traction, I think, among law firm hiring partners, but I haven't.
Not necessarily schools.
No.
Why do you think that is?
I think, well, first of all, the schools, they're loath to change. So they now have a system where it doesn't interfere with classes, where they're actually able to do all of the OCI work before classes even begin. And I don't think they'd want to push it back any further. It would make a lot more sense, but then you're recruiting during the December holidays and New Year. I don't know that that's much better either.
No perfect time to do this
no.
At all, I guess. I wanted to talk to you about trends in starting compensation for first years and incoming associates. James Leipold had this really interesting quote that popped up in Above the Law, I think it was yesterday, that essentially that $160K for first years in big law, while many people think that's the norm, it's not necessarily the case. It feels, I graduated law school in 2006, it feels like we haven't really seen a major move in first year compensation across the board in about 8 years' time. Where do you see compensation heading over the next 5 years?
I think it's tricky to predict. Law firms tend to be big followers of the market, and I know that the investment banks this year have started to raise their entry-level salaries and bonuses, and that may have some effect on who goes to law school versus business school. But going back to entry-level lawyers, I mean, I see it relatively stable for now, and it has been for a while, largely because we're not in an inflationary environment. The costs are not going up in a big way. We're talking about a period for the last 6 years, post credit crisis. So there have been a lot of ups and downs with the legal business. Now, as the big law business recovers, improves, perhaps becomes extraordinary, it's conceivable that you will see salaries go up. And it's a big question, and I can tell you that all of our associates are constantly wondering if and when.
Sure, sure. So, yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I was almost about to ask if we are more if we're more set up to head to a world where 190K is going to be the norm, or if in 5 years' time most firms are going to be, right where they are. But like you said, it's hard to predict. It depends on what the market for legal services is going to be going forward. Which, I mean, it's the reason that we love talking to you so much. It's hard to figure this out and then plan how many associates are going to be coming into a class for a given year.
Right.
That said, you have to look further down the pipeline. Applications for law schools are down across the board. Are you starting to see that trend, although it's pretty new, start to have effects in your world?
The short answer is no. Generally, we're looking for students that are at or near the top of their law schools, and we're looking at law schools that are at or near the top of prestige among law schools. So the cream of the cream, it's still the cream of the cream. Now, if we were to start looking at a broader range of law schools and looking further, deeper down into the classes, I'm sure you would see some changes. I mean, I think that law firm recruiting, while there is an uptick and people are looking to grow, they're looking to grow in a more conservative manner than they were pre-2008. So again, we're not seeing it, but it's something that we're keeping our eyes on. There's a different phenomenon that we're focused on, though, which is as the economy improves and as law firms begin to hire larger classes, we have to do a better job predicting, how many offers do we make, how deep do we go in a class, should we expand the law schools, and that's a tricky element. We're also seeing increased 3L hiring, dramatically increased 3L hiring on campuses, because firms are probably a little bit less willing to take the risk of having too large a summer class 2 years in advance of when they're going to be needed. So perhaps some are being a little bit more conservative with their 2L summer class and can make up the difference with 3L hiring. But with 3L hiring, that adds another factor, which is, do we have to then contemplate, for the last 8 years, you've had virtually 100% of your summer associates returning. Now, if you have a competitive 3L environment, you're going to have to anticipate how many people may I lose from my summer program before the class begins.
Awfully complicated. You're also on the firm's diversity committee. A couple months back, we had ALM's Eric Press come on the program and unpack some really dismal numbers when it came to African American partners at large law firms. I think it was something like under 2%, really quite low and surprisingly so. Why does BigLaw have so few African American partners?
That is an extraordinarily complicated question. I think that one problem there is that because of the dearth of African American partners at big law firms, it tends to be difficult to recruit African American law students that are coming in. People like to see that there is a path toward partnership, and it becomes a little bit of a vicious cycle. Now, all the law firms, and my firm in particular, we are very seriously focused on this. We have very strong diversity initiatives, not only involving African Americans, but involving women, other groups, and we are focused on improving our recruiting statistics, on improving retention, and improving promotion. At my firm, we have a very generous diversity scholarship that is offered, diversity fellowship, to an incoming 2L summer associate, or some years to multiple, and it's all with a view to trying to get Big Law to more accurately reflect society at a large and not be a club of old guys that doesn't represent society.
That's Jay Grushkin from Milbank Tweed. If you'd like to see more of the stuff we're working on, be sure to go check us out online. You can find us at mimesiswebtv.com. We also have a Twitter handle and a YouTube channel by the same name. I'm Lee Pacchia. Thanks for watching.